Blessed ones of the nations of the world, one more time, this is your brother Dan Moses or say El Sakodi of TRC Ghana, coming your way with the program, the continuation of the program, Testimony New World Disorder, amidst all these challenges. We are struggling through the recovery process, but we still have to continue the expose, Akwaba, to the program, Testimony New World Disorder. So, humanity and the nations of the world, in the wickedness of fellow men, diplomatic forces in Ghana, of John D. Kunkufo's cronies, Nana Addo Akufo, their cronies, political forces, diplomatic forces. And let's not forget that from the very onset, the BNI, which has played smart by changing the name to NIB, they have all been involved in this evil of Moses Alobu. The Ghana Police Headquarters, they have all been involved. The politicized national security, they have all been involved in this evil. That is the kind of, that's what I tell us that it is politics of stupidity that has been engaging against our nation. And it is only driven by tribalism, which had brought us here as a nation. So they, in their smartness, were thinking that you needed to belong to their tribe or their political party before you can be a Ghanaian. So they were going about, orchestrated to get innocent Muslims killed. And eventually, God steps in, get them exposed. So the court of death that they purposed for the innocent on the nations of the world, they put it on their own neck. And the rooster had come back to roost. That now the evil seed that is sown, it is Ghanaians that are being killed. They poison you, kill you in secrecy. They use the medical field to collude with medical doctors, inject you and kill you. This is worse than the Iraqis saw. This is worse than the Afghans saw. This is worse than the Pakistanis saw. This is worse than Sudan saw. This is worse than Somalia is seeing. This is worse than many nations that are falling. Because when there is a total war or chaos, bloodshed in a nation openly, the world is able to speak out and condemn it. But as evil as some of my old people have been, the kind of death that have been brought upon my land and upon my people, we are killed, and the state itself, out of shame, must deny and get our people continuously killed. Diplomats, politicians, religious celebrities, journalists. And this is our situation. But God is good all the time, God is good. Akwaba to the program, Testimony, New World Disorder. Humanity and the nations of the world. So, Kenneth Tedegu, the US undercover agent, the CIA operative, their colleagues in Ghana, Paul Ambene of the CIA, other colleagues, their crime partners in taking them to the United Kingdom. Beatrice Adoya, Daniel Kitche, others were operating for Daniel Kitche, so many of them, from Canada, Georgina Opon, from US, uncountable. They would have to execute their only choice. If they cannot suppress and to silence me, they must turn Ghana into another Afghanistan and another Pakistan. But God resisted them. So their only choice is what we are seeing, the cowardly secret killing of the Ghanaians up to this very moment. Humanity and the nations of the world. So in order to silence me, they could not get me to confess to be a terrorist. They could not get me to submit to let them use the medical field to go inject me and destroy my mind. So the undercover agent, a woman that has been cut through C-section, let's understand how cruel this undercover agent is. she's an individual that because of money, because of money, she would have to let her own father's life. These crimes cost her own father's life, and she didn't care. For me to be set free and to have my life, she chose for her own father to die. That is the kind of human being she is. Humanity and the nation. So she is cut, and yet in the situation of C-section, while your husband is there for you, helping you, feeding the baby, keeping staying up all night, collude with a so-called preacher to come threaten me to admit to being a terrorist, to confess to being a terrorist. I should confide in him, and she will not let the CIA. She knew we were under surveillance. So he left the home, and we went to orchestrate with Emmanuel Bafo, Margaret Bafo. They all must pull their forces together and use the medical field to destroy me, just like I've told us in part 1. Obama used that strategy over, and George Bush used it, where they staged terror act. They know that if they don't find means to cover up, the American people can get exposed, and that will be very embarrassing. So they have to use a picture of an individual, a drawing, a picture that intelligent. It can be a computer generated image, that doesn't exist, but they use that picture on the media over and over again as the terror suspect. Eventually, sometimes they come up with the idea that the person was a mental health patient, and such a person we cannot. It means the case must die out, and the case dies out. The political point has been scored already by the government. If they cannot they don't use that strategy they use a sketch, show it to the media taunt on the minds of the American people over and over again that this is the individual. He's being tried in court, and the court proceedings go. That is the image they show to the American over and over. Eventually, they try a cartoon and tell you the cartoon is in jail. Humanity, and in such a case, who are you? It's a national security issue. You have no right going to check whether the person is in jail or not. Finish. At the point, if they tell you the person is dead, the case is dead. So that is how treacherous and cruel they have been. But so they decided to use that strategy against me. It didn't work. So what John Kufuor, John Kufuor's administration in 2008. This was the time that the year that John Kufuor was coming out of office, George Bush was coming out of office. Barack Obama heated election moment, and the Republican and the Democrat, they were fighting to make sure that the Democrat come to power. The Republican were seeking to maintain power, so they continue to cover up the atrocities of the U.S. undercover agent, which was getting blown. As I speak, as at then, the New York stock market has been crashed as a result of this heinous crime covering and exploiting of the family. So things are totally falling apart in America, and desperation. So they plotted that on the day that I was supposed to take my child, this was the 12th of March 2008. I was supposed to take my child and the so-called wife, the U.S. undercover agent, for a review at the Long Island Jewish Hospital. It was 1 p.m. All night I've stayed up taking care of them, my wife and my child, a newborn baby, Elizabeth. Grace, this is Elizabeth. She's a warrior, just like you. She died and many times, and yet she lives at the hands of police officers, FBI, CIA, national security, call themselves terror network from Addo. Ghana Aquaba to the program. I had to say this because if we see the CIA also being lawless in Ghana, FBI lawless in Ghana, infiltrating our nation, doing as they please, it is because a precedent has been set. John de for Nana Akufo Addo, they with regard for the U.S. Constitution, were operating secret terror cell on the soil of Ghana against the American people, and were getting tortured. And the American people, they knew that. So what is good for the American, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. That is why now we see the CIA, the government of Nana Akufo is totally run by foreign forces. Yeah, they sow the seed, so we are reaping what we sow. So Aquaba to the program Testimony New World Disorder. They decided that on the day of the appointment, I had taken care of my wife and my child all night, and it's in the morning I've wiped them off, make sure they are clean. I've fed them, and it was like 10 a.m. It was then that I had to lay down a little bit, get some rest, and then by 12 noon, I've told my wife to wake me when it's 12 noon so we can set off from home for the appointment. The driving will take us like 30 minutes if no traffic, so 1 hour grace was okay. I was getting rest in the bedroom, like from 2 hours rest to wake up at 12 noon, and then we go for the appointment. The next thing I heard was a tap on my leg. Hey, get up. I opened my eyes, and that was the undercover agent in the room with armed policemen from the 69 precinct, those that were in charge of the surveillance, threatening with guns consistently all through the marriage. They were in my room with fully loaded guns. They were dressed as though they were going to Iraq for war. They were there with the ambulance service personnel. Why are they in my bedroom? As we wake up, my wife, I woke up as what is going on? They tell me my wife, the undercover agent, had called that I am not feeling well, so they are coming to take me to the hospital. I said, no, we had an appointment at the morning, in the afternoon. I'm resting so I can take my wife and my child to the hospital. I've taken care of them all night. It is true, they have been persecuting me and all night, every time since we got married, persecuting me, torturing me. However, I have not called for any police to come attack me in my room. And so I was telling the police I was only resting for an appointment with my that I wake up at noon. I've told my wife to wake me up, so we go for the appointment. That's all. I don't know what that is. In the US, one thing that we should know, this is a suffering that if you marry an American citizen, from what I personally experienced, you marry as a foreigner, in most cases, if you don't get a good wife or a good husband, and your husband is an American citizen, or your wife is an American citizen, some of the things that you endure, you understand, they subject you to abuses. And if you want to, if you happen to be, your wife seems to be the cruel type, or husband, and you happen to call the police comes. If you call the police and your life is endangered at the hands of your spy, the police come, all your wife will have to do, or the husband, he or she is an American citizen. They are not prepared to listen to you, the foreigner. Understand? Your case is closed. And whatever their citizens say, that is all they take. So they were telling me, and that strategy has been used, is what they were making the undercover agent. They tell me the undercover agent has said to them that I'm not feeling fine, so period. They are taking me to the hospital against my will. These were fully armed personnel. Their intent to get me assassinated. Their intent to torture me, to confess to being a terrorist. Now they are in my bedroom. What would I do? I had to, just like we have been taught in America, don't resist if even armed robbers come to attack you. Just watch their faces at the point, describe them to the police, and the police will take it from there. I never resisted. They had to bring, you have a wheelchair, put me, bring the wheelchair. They will not handcuff me. Handcuff me. Handcuff me and put me in the wheelchair. Take me to the ambulance that was parked outside of the home with the police in front of the police station, which was directly opposite our home. Some of police watching on some in my room, having escort me to the car in a wheelchair. They put me on the stretcher. They released the handcuff off my hand. They put me on the stretcher. That they should take me to the hospital. They have already orchestrated. The hospital was called Kings County Hospital. The FBI, the 67%, the government of John Akufo, George W., they have all planned that what they can do to silence me from exposing the U.S. undercover agent was to make up a medical report against me. Falsify medical reports against me. This is complete medical terrorism. Humanity and the nations of the world. That God proved to them that I am an African, yet we are not stupid. Christ is my Lord, and we have the mind of Christ. And Christ is the wisdom and the power of God. I had to just lie on the stretcher, non-resistant. They take me to the hospital. America, I have to say this. Everything that happened at the hospital, I was fully aware. Yes. Whatever that I had to just try to get enough evidence, watch and see what they want to do to me. Why are they using the medical field? They have committed this heinous crime. They intend coming to wreck my nation. Why are they disrespecting every law of America, or every law that borders the medical field, to use the medical to commit terrorism against me? I had to just submit, pretend as though I don't know what was happening, just allow them to do whatever they please. America, humanity and the nations. This was the 12th of March 2008. The surveillance, visible surveillance images at the hospital, I can refer them to evidence from the camera that we will know that that the U.S. undercover agent, her mother, her father, Peggy Bafu, the daughter of Margaret Bafu and Emmanuel Bafu, who stole my father's grave. You know from the camera, I can give us a proof that it was all a ploy that they were using to make up the medical. So I had to let them have their way. They had to admit me against my will. I had to allow them, just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. I wanted to, God was using me to know, to study, to be an investigator. Some of the things that they go through, go ask the investigating journalists. Some had to go through situation that a near lynching situation, and God saved them out. So I had to lay down my life for Ghana and for humanity, and know why, how much evil can be done through the medical field. So for 5 days, they had to use the hospital to hold me, seeking how to make medical reports, false reports against me at the hospital, because they were seeking to brand me as a Rastafarian. If they cannot use the agenda as a Muslim to get me to so a Rastafarian, they cannot falsify medical records against me. They must use the fact that I have linked with some Rastafarian, Lucky Dube, whom they have killed. So they had to make sure that they have planted a weed smoker to pretend as a patient in the hospital. It is the place is locked in such a way that you cannot get out. So they had to the room where I was made to. I was admitted in that room, forced admission. In that room, they have planted their agent to pretend also, so that to see whether what I would confess or communication that I would be making with him, so he gets. And in the room with me, he was made to smoke weed to see whether I would also ask for the weed, yield with him to smoke it. And they wanted to kill me. And every criminal, this is a hospital. Drugs are not allowed in there. Yet they were supplying my roommate with that drug. They call the weed drug, and yet you are supplying it with him to use it to set me up. That I'm a Rastafarian, so they can use that to destroy my life at the medical at the hospital. That I smoke weed, and therefore they must stand on it to make a false record against me. Ghana and the nations of the world. Akwaba. This is a so-called wife, my own wife, who had had C-section with my so-called family members. Bible says that a man's enemies shall be those of his own household. The scripture was fulfilled in this man, Imano Bafo, who stole my father's gratuity several millions of dollars today. Now, at the hospital, God has put his angel there, a Ghanaian, who was a nurse. I told the nurse that you are a Ghanaian. It is my own wife, a US undercover agent, whose cover is blown, that I've orchestrated, and they are using the medical field to destroy my life, make up false medical reports against me. Any help that you can offer me, do it. You are my fellow Ghanaian. He used his influence, made a way for an emergency meeting to be held. He said I'll have to see the hospital authorities. An emergency meeting was held one day on the 17th of March, and the hospital authorities were in the room. No, before that 17th, Margaret Bafo has been sent to the hospital to come visit me by Imano Bafo, after they have colluded to put me there to make medical records against me. That is all they needed, medical records to silence me. So she sent Margaret Bafo to the hospital, and under the visible cameras of the hospital, with the nurses and the staff there, she's sitting with me, weeping, protesting that why should I be brought to such a place? I have no mental issue. There is no reason why I should be brought there, protesting, weeping in tears. All part of the strategy. She goes and I called the husband. I called the husband at the home, and the husband was furious, telling me that I should tell when the US undercover agent comes to the hospital, I should tell her that he says that he's demanding my immediate release. Otherwise, he would sue the US undercover agent for orchestrating to establish false medical records against me. Ghana, all they needed was to get me admitted at the hospital and get the medical records. So now, to get me out, they have to come out with a ploy. Now they are threatening each other. He's at loggerheads with the US undercover agent, demanding that I should be discharged, or else he was going to sue. Meanwhile, he orchestrated that with the US undercover agent, Augustine Japan. Ghana and the nations of the world. Akwaba to the program Testimony New World Disorder. So on the day of the emergency meeting, the 17th of August, let's understand why the date 17th. Let's not forget that I've told us about the figure 17. That 17th of August, emergency meeting was held. The US undercover agent was there. I was sitting with the hospital authorities. they had a confirmation from, they know from Emmanuel Bafo and the wife Margaret Bafo that there is no reason for me to be held there. They have questioned the U.S. undercover agent before me. How come I got admitted there? The U.S. undercover agent told them plainly that there is no reason. She thought that I was not feeling well, and she called and she spoke to my family, Emmanuel Bafo, and they all agreed that they should bring me there. She was telling them this. And I had to tell them that, no, she orchestrated that with Augustine Ejepon. There's a preacher that she, before that, there's a preacher involved. He said Augustine, the undercover agent called, told them she's our pastor. They contacted him on the phone. They asked him, why did they bring me there? Augustine Ejepon told them on the phone, there is no reason for me to be brought there. I am an innocent person and I have no mental issue. And she is testifying that I should not be admitted there, and she agrees that I should be discharged. Humanity and the nations of the world. You see how dangerous they are. The same people that plotted to establish their medical records against me, they are the same people that have colluded with the FBI, John the US, Ghana Embassy, USA. They are all networking. All they needed is the falsified medical records to be established against me, to silence me from exposing the killing of Muslims, the killing of Christians, the killing of fellow human beings on the nations of the world, on the hand for Osama bin Laden, whom they knew was long dead. Ghana, they failed. God help me. So eventually, in 2011, when I had come to Ghana with my family, Innocent Elizabeth and Grace, with a U.S. undercover agent, the U.S. undercover agent had to plot with Paul Ambene, the same criminals, a grand counterpart, CIA operative Paul Ambene, Pastor Emmanuel, Gulf City, Willie Pliny, CIA operative, organized to come and lynch me at the home. They failed. They kidnapped me 6 days, take me to Jamap Timponi Forest. God comes in, I escape. While I was there, the UN High Commission for Human Rights had given, even before I was kidnapped, the UN High Commission for Human Rights had given the US undercover agent the go ahead. I will never, now I'm in Ghana, I'm stuck there. She has the freedom to bruise her tent, go about, and all through our marriage, that Henry guy has been sharing my wife with me all through the marriage. Whenever she wants to have sex with me, that's how I have to suffer. So they kidnapped me, and the woman was engaged in extramarital sex in the US with my undercover agent wife. I escape and I go back to the US. I'm talking about 2011. The undercover agent, fearing that when I was in Ghana, I was at the hands of terrorists, she was engaging in extramarital sex with the intelligence service operative, and she might be pregnant for him, went behind me to carry out a secret pregnancy test for the intelligence service operative. Unfortunately for her, she was not home when the hospital called and gave me the pregnancy test results. So she comes from home, she comes from outside. I tell her, the hospital called you, it said your pregnancy test is negative. Now her guilty conscience, she had to devise a strategy, abuse my children physically to create domestic violence so that she can exit the home with my children and take them as a property. She executed that strategy of fleeing with my children on the 13th of June 2011, 2 months after I escaped and I went to join her in America. She orchestrated with the police, the FBI, the same sticks, crime sticks. And they fled with my children, 2 children, Elizabeth and Grace. The next day, they made the police come attack me, armed police, one would attack me at the home with a fictitious warrant that they have received a warrant from the court that they are supposed to come take me to the hospital to go make up medical records against me one more time. Can you imagine that? It was the hospital, Shady Grove Adventist Hospital, where the US undercover agent, she was now then working at that hospital, that they were using that hospital to go make that records. They took me there, trying to make the records, false records. They realized that no, conflict of interest, they will be exposed. So they transferred me quickly that night to Washington Adventist Hospital, which is their sister hospital, for the hospital to make up false medical records against me. These are the same police that Nana Addo Akufo-Addo's government, together with the IGP James Opon-Bueni, police of Germantown, they collude with, torture me, persecute me till I was bleeding. I was bleeding internally in 2020. They had to cut off my finger, and when they cannot suppress me, they had to kill my Jerry John Rawlings. Ghana and the nations of the world, it is the same Germantown police. The family had to relocate from New York to Maryland in 2009. And when in 2009 we have gone into Maryland, the same FBI, the same police service of US is the same everywhere. They had to take over the torture, persecution, and terror against me. Ghana, my people have been tortured and killed. They have sought to destroy me, but they could not. The good news is, God, by one Christian, one child of his, has been able to expose the killing of innocent Muslims, the killing of innocent Christians, the killing of innocent civilians under the hand for Osama bin Laden, who was long dead and was not alive. God, by a Christian, has done this not only for Christians, not only for Muslims, not only for Judaïsts, not only for those that worship and do not worship, for the entire human race. Because the evil that they were pursuing was dangerous enough to have caused worse than a third world war. So God has been good to the human race, and we have to be good to each other by respecting life and protecting each other's life. Let's go to part 3. A man's own enemies shall be those of his own household. My own spouse had to do this evil, set my family in Ghana up, and eventually get them killed. Kill my diplomat, politician, religious leaders. But it is well. God bless you. God bless my homeland, Ghana. Bye-bye. Ever to us.